The special council meeting. Jackie, could you please call the roll, please?
LaCroix,
Here.
Martinson, Hadcock, Hurlbut, Okrepke,
Here.
Chapman, Wyffenbach, Olson, Kroger,
Here.
Quaker.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Jackie. The only thing that we do have on today's agenda is the presentation of the 2009 budget. With that, I will turn over the chair to the council president, Deb Hadcock, and I'll go down in front and start the presentation. My goal is to try and keep this to somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes. That way you guys can move forward with your legal and finance committee meeting. So go ahead and start timing. 3 minutes, yeah. Okay, there we go.
Mayor Hanks,
Yes.
do we have the books for people or?
No, not yet. We'll actually hand out the budget books after the presentation and also the Condrey study.
Okay, thank you.
What we have, let me grab this real quick here. What we'll be doing is I'll be presenting just an overview of the proposed 2009 budget, and included in that there are some other documentation, including the work or the manpower study by Condrey and Associates. So you'll be getting all that documentation as soon as we're done here. Rapid City is a vibrant and growing community. The question is, how do we tell? Well, we can tell, of course, by population trends. We can tell by building permits. We can also tell by our sales tax and also by tourism, specifically the Triple B tax. Population, so what's been happening in Rapid City? Well, you can see from 2004 we've had a steady increase from 64,000 up through the 2007 was 69,000. And the projection in 2010, which is of course provided by the Census Bureau, is 71,000. So the trend continues to grow. Just an article that was in the Rapid City Journal on March 27, 2008, I thought was very important to point out. And that was Rapid City, the metro area, hit 120,000 people. That's why you're seeing tremendous growth, specifically in the commercial side of building. Building permit values continue to grow. 2007 was absolutely an incredible year. I mean, it just blew the records. I mean, just blew the top off the records. Now, I will tell you, in 2008 and 2009, we will not be as high as 2007. 2007, we had some huge projects come in between Cabela's and Shields and some of the other building permits that were pulled for Rushmore Crossing. But we still plan, our projection is still that we have continued strong growth through 2009. Building permits in the Rapid City area. There again, this was an article in the January 29th, 2008 Rapid City Journal. Building permits, there again, hit 24% increase between 2007 and 2008. Foreclosures, I always thought this was important to talk about this because it really talks about the strength of our economy here. You know, some of the highest rates of mortgage foreclosures are in the fastest growing communities like Phoenix and Detroit. But yet, if you actually look, I pulled this actually out of the USA Today. If you see South Dakota here, we're among, actually, I think we are the lowest, with less than 5 foreclosures per 10,000 households. We are not having the crisis, as far as the credit crisis in Rapid City, that a lot of the rest of the country is experiencing. Sales tax, how are we doing as far as sales tax? You can see it's starting in 2004, continues to trend up. In 2008, we projected about a 3% increase. I don't want to say where we're at, but I will say that we're certainly well above that because I don't want to give anybody too much optimism here because we have to be a little bit conservative. Our projection for 2009 is we're projecting about a 5% increase. Might ask why? We are going to have an awful lot of retail coming online between Cabela's, Shields, Super Target, Rushmore Crossing. All those things are coming online. None of those are actually appearing. So we believe in 2009 we're going to have a very healthy economy. The Triple B tax is another good indicator. As you can see, it has continually grown. 2008 is projected here. 2009 is projected even higher. So tourism seems to be on par with last year, which, when we started talking about $4 a gallon, fuel, everybody thought literally the bottom would drop out of tourism. It hasn't yet this year. We're very optimistic that we're going to have a good tourism year. City revenue. This is just sort of a bar graph that shows the different sources of revenue, starting in 2004, 5, up through 9. There's four basic sources: sales tax, and we also have interest, grants, and fees, property tax, and then license and permits. You can basically see the dollar amounts associated with each. We also, as part of this year's budgetary process, we wanted to take a look at manpower. Do we have the right number of people for FTE citywide, and do we have them in the right departments? So we actually went to Condrey and Associates, and of course the original objectives was to look at 4 different departments: City Attorney's Office, Community Resources, Finance, and Growth Management. We expanded that to actually include all departments because we thought it was very important that we take a look at where we fit as far as FTEs compared to other communities. These are some of the other communities that we compared ourselves to, or Condrey basically compared us to. As you can see, there's some folks from South Dakota, Kansas, Minnesota, Wyoming, Wisconsin, Nebraska. So the question is, how do we compare? And just so you know, Katie did a really nice job with this PowerPoint. This wasn't me, I'm not this good. PowerPoint. If you look here, this is basically a chart, and everyone will get a hard copy of it. The yellow right here, of course, is Rapid City. It shows that we have 671.3 FTEs. Now you're going to ask yourself, a lot of you are going to say, wait a sec, we have 700 FTEs. That's true, we do. The actual FTE total is 701. But because we're somewhat unique when it comes to our ambulance service, to get a fair comparison, we needed to back out those 30 employees from the EMS service. That's where we come up with the 671. And, I'm going to back up 1 second here. And the reason I think that's important is we're at 671, the average is 666 with a median of 661. What I'm being told by Condrey and Associates, if you're within 20% plus or minus, you're in the right range, and we're almost dead on. Rapid City's FTEs, this just sort of gives you an indication of where the FTEs fall out as far as their different functions. The yellow right here, this is actually the 2008 approved FTE list. The 2009 as budgeted, if you notice right here, I am suggesting to the council that we remove half an FTE from code enforcement. The dollar amount is reflected right in here. The blue column right here is the recommended FTE for 2009. I will tell you what you're going to see in your budget book is this area right here. This is what I'm hoping that you'll agree to. This gives you the rest of the FTEs, the other departments. To see here, there's a couple in here. If you notice, like this one right here, there's an additional FTE request. It is not in the budget. It is for the Parks and Rec. Can you see that, everyone? Everyone will get hard copies. We tried to squeeze this in. Yeah, we will get hard copies for everybody, but there's a little bit of rearranging that we're asking, and that is the fact that we have FTEs that we're asking to be added to the Parks Department, one, and also one to IT. The way we made up for that is we did reduce the growth management FTE level by 2. There were some unused FTEs there. Marcia, although she wasn't terribly happy, was very gracious and said, as long as I can come back when we grow into those positions, and I agreed to that. So the total suggestion is the fact that with general funds, we will grow by 3 FTEs. There are going to be some additional FTE requests that are non-general fund money, enterprise. In other words, the Civic Center is looking for an additional 5 FTEs. The airport is looking for an additional 3 FTEs. Water is looking for an additional billing clerk. The landfill is looking for 2 more truck drivers for a new truck. Those will be reflected in the budget, but it does not impact the general fund budget. Okay? Staffing levels. This just gives sort of an indication of where we're at. And you can actually see, starting right here, Public Works. And I'm even having a hard time reading that, to tell you the truth. Here's Parks, here's the Mayor, Library, Growth Management, Fire, City Attorney, right down the line. General fund financing, principal sources. In other words, where do we get the money for the general fund? Well, you get it from property taxes, sales tax, interest grants, and other net transfers, interdepartmental charges. The total, as far as what we're projecting, $44,963,000 is what we're projecting in general fund revenue. Now, I want to make this as the point because I knew this was going to come up. This does not include the $337,000 of additional property taxes that we can basically take according to state statute. And the question is going to be, what is my recommendation? Are we going to take that or not? And I will tell you, you'll see in a minute, this was an extremely tight budget. We have an awful lot of priorities that we do not have the ability to fund without that $337,000. My recommendation to the council is that we do take it this year. Expenditures. There again, where does the money go? Broken down to general government, public works, fire, public safety, others, parks and rec. It just sort of gives you a basic idea. There again, we match, $44,963,000. Comparing 2008 to 2009 general fund budgets, what's it mean? We are actually going backwards. We will have a budget that is about 1.52% less than the 08 budget. Now, if you ask why, well, the reason is in 2007, we expected a certain percentage of our budget as a turnback or a remittance. We expected about $4.5 million to come back into the budget to be used in the 2008 budget. We only got about $2 million back. We were about $2.5 million short of where our cash flow, where we thought we were. We need to catch it now, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves in trouble down the road. So this budget is extremely conservative, extremely tight. The 2008 general fund budget was $45,197,000. The 09 is $44,963,000. So you can see that the difference is we're going to actually spend less, about $223,000 less in 09 than we are in 08. This slide basically shows all the different departments. This is a citywide department organizational chart, of course, showing the mayor and city council and all 11 different department heads. The mayor's budget, we're actually going to see a reduction of about 7%. And I'm going to go through this fairly quick, look at our time here. Airport, a couple things about the airport. Here's the org chart. Keep in mind that they will be asking you for reorganization. That is in the budget book. Airport growth, just an indication, we are one of the fastest growing airports in the country. Passengers and capacity, we continue to go up. And their budget request, they're again, keep in mind this is an enterprise fund, would increase by about 7.5%. That is reflective of the additional 3 FTEs that they're requesting for the restructuring. City Attorney's Office, there's organizational chart. Their budget, we're looking at about a 3.75% increase. Civic Center. Now I will tell you the Civic Center was an interesting one, because when we looked at the manpower study from Condrey and Associates, they flat said that they had a hard time getting their arms around this, because we have a Civic Center unlike any other Civic Center they could find. It is bigger, it is busier than any other community that they talked with. So it's a little bit unique. Some of the things that happen in Civic Center as far as Civic Center use, historically over the last 6 years, just so you know, concessions have increased by 26%. The overall Civic Center revenue has increased by 16%. The number of events have increased by 15%. This is all without the new expansion. The new arena, the expectation for the next year are concessions will increase by over $1.6 million. The total revenues will increase by over $3 million. Event days will increase by 11%, and that will add 100 more events to the Rapid City Civic Center with the expansion. This is an increase of basically building attendance by over 30%, or over $1.3 million a year. So here's the Civic Center budget. As you can see, it takes a fairly large increase, but the revenues will be generated through that enterprise fund to match up with those. Let's look at community resources. There again, there's the org chart. They have human resources. Just so you know, the city of Rapid City has 701 full-time FTEs. Here's something most people don't realize. The city of Rapid City uses approximately 1,100 seasonal and temporary employees. 1,100. Human resources, they process about 3,000 job applications a year. City of Rapid City is a good place to work. And the city does hire approximately 100 full-time FTEs every single year. That's about what our turnover is. Information and technology, there's another division under that. Serves 20 remote locations throughout Rapid City, supports 700 computers, provides support for over 200 printers, And of course, currently, the information technology, we're undergoing a major reorganization and update of our IT. Here's the budget for community resources. If you notice, it's actually going down. That's a key one. It's going down by 2.2%. Finance office. There again, there's our structure organizational chart. And here's our budget. It's actually going to go up 4.45%. Just so you know, this does include that additional FTE I talked about earlier. That's where the vast majority of that increase is in that additional FTE. They're literally drowning down in the accounting department. Fire department. Of course, there's the organizational chart, different divisions. And here's basically a slide I thought was interesting. This is sort of the stats as far as responses. If you notice, structural fires have gone down a little bit. Everything else has stayed about the same. But look at this one. Additional calls to respond to. Notice this increase here. Medical. We send an engine out with every single ambulance. So the fire department budget is up about 2.64%. Growth management. There again, organizational chart. Let's look a little bit at residential building permits. They continue to be strong. We're, there again, cautiously optimistic, but things we seem to keep plugging right along. People keep coming in with new housing developments. Plan developments. There again, they've been increasing. 2007 was a good, strong year. I would imagine we're pretty much topped out. I think we're going to be fairly flat through next year just because of the fact that we've had so much activity, both commercially and on the residential side. The annual subdivision revenue has been going up. There again, my projection is next year it'll probably be a little bit flatter just because of the fact that we had such a huge year in 2007. Building permit annual revenue. There again, look at 2007, absolutely incredible. My guess is, and there again our projections are, we'll actually probably be fairly flat in 2008 with the 2006 numbers, and keep in mind that was a record year. So there again, every indicator we have is the economy is still very strong and still growing. Growth management budget, if you notice, 4.22% reduction. There again, that's reflected in the 2 FTEs that were utilized other places within the general fund budget. Public library, there again, organizational chart. Number of borrowers continues to go up. 2005 was an incredible year, but we still see a good growth from 2006, 2007, and we expect it to continue to go up. Patron contact, in other words, the folks that are actually utilizing the facilities. Notice 2007, it continues to go up. A lot of that has to do with the programming that they're actually providing over in the library. Electronic access, in other words, folks coming in and using electronic medium, computers. If you notice, it continues to go up. Adult programming and youth programming, there again, continues to grow and expand. Library budget, you notice, reduction of 3.79%. One of the things that you will find is when we looked at this budget, as tight as it was, what we decided is we wanted to make sure that people came before equipment. If we had to make some cuts, if we needed to delay purchases, we were going to delay capital expenses, equipment, before we were going to let anybody go. You can always buy a piece of equipment. You can't, oftentimes it's almost impossible trying to get a good employee to come back once you've let them go. So that was our attitude. Parks and Rec, different divisions under Park and Rec, for aquatics, cemetery, golf, parks, recreation. Golf courses, 2007, if you notice, it was fairly flat. 2008 is actually a little bit lower than that because we actually got rain for the first time in about 4 or 5 years. And so they're extremely busy right now, but through the spring with all that rain, revenue is going to be down a little bit on the golf courses. There again, revenue side, we expect it to be fairly close. I mean, in 2008, we expect it to be somewhere around over $700,000. We just don't know. A lot of it depends on the weather. You notice 2005? Yeah, now we didn't get any rain in 2005, but it was tremendously hot, so they didn't get to play. Swim center continues to be utilized. If you can see, continues to go up both in usage and in revenue. The ice rink, attendance keeps growing. And I'm going to tell you, once the new arena at the Civic Center is open, I would imagine that this thing's going to spike because there's going to be an awful lot of interest in ice, both in figure skating and in hockey and other events that can actually be played on ice. Recreation program, as far as participation, as you can see, it continues to grow both for adults and for youth. Parks and Rec budget, there again, notice it's gone down a little bit, but they do have an extra FTE where the reason it's going down is we delayed the purchase of a major piece of equipment, which was a bucket truck, which was about $150,000 to $200,000. That's the reason you see the reduction. There again, people before equipment. Police department, there again, just the number of calls. This is interesting. Notice how it keeps going up. And we expect that to continue to go up in 2009. That's why there's a request for an additional 2 FTEs utilizing the COPS grant. DUI arrests continue to be high. We've made some progress. It dropped a little bit in 07, but we're right on par in 08. I mean, it's absolutely amazing seeing the number of folks get arrested literally every weekend for DUI. Their budget goes up 1.19%. Public Works, this is the big one. There's an awful lot of employees here. What do you have, 230? I thought it was 231. Streets, of course, is a big part of Public Works. Within the city of Rapid City, there's 81 miles of concrete streets. There's 300 miles of asphalt streets. There's 11 miles of gravel. Yes, we have gravel streets in Rapid City. And I'm still trying to figure this one. We have 54 miles of other surfaces. We don't know exactly what they are, but they're other. But the total is the fact that we have 453 miles of streets in the city of Rapid City. A lot of streets. This is always a fun one too. Utility services. 312 miles of sewer line. 6,000 manholes. 6,000. 392 miles of water mains. 3,600 fire hydrants. 27 pumping stations. 9,000 valves. And 117 miles of storm sewer. And that's all within 51 miles, which is basically the corporate limits of Rapid City. We have almost 52 square miles of Rapid City. Water reclamation, as you can see, the number of accounts continue to grow. Water accounts continue to grow. Gallons of water produced, as you notice, it's actually dropped off. In 08, it's also down. Of course, the reason this year is the fact that we've actually gotten rain. So, rapid transit continues to grow. I will also tell you that within the proposed budget, there is money, or there is a dollar amount for an additional trolley. Keep in mind that 87% of that money comes from the federal government. The rest is matched locally. I'm very pleased to tell you that we have an anonymous donor who has already stepped up to the plate who will pay for $23,000 to buy the new trolley. The impact of the new trolley will be 0 for the city of Rapid City. Public Works budget. There again, if you've noticed, it goes down about 1.89%. The number of people are the same. The service we provide will be the same. The difference is we've made some delays as far as capital purchases, some of the equipment. Uses for the $337,000 that I'm proposing that you accept as far as new property value. FTEs, park maintenance supervisor, $70,000. We talked a little bit about that. Police officers, $25,000. There again, that's the match for the COP grant. One-time purchases, finance software for the finance office for fixed asset, that is about $25,000 for that software. We're actually working on some very, very old software there. Parks and Rec, software upgrade for about $12,000. One of the problems we're having with Parks and Recs is when we open up passes, say for the swim centers during the summer, you can only be on a couple computers system-wide, and when you have 30, 40 people standing in line and you have 5 computers and only 2 of them can sell passes, that doesn't make sense. Land management software. This is a tool that can be used through growth management to basically go through a automated, basically a building permit and tracking software. They've been asking this for a couple years, and the last one is library inventory control. Basically, it's software. If you've noticed, it does add up to more than the $337,000. It's about $382,000. But I know a number of you have asked, what do you see as the priorities? There's my list. Now it's up to the council to determine what they feel is a priority. And with that, I keep it, by gosh, you're even going to be able to start legal and finance on time. Thank you so much. You will be receiving copies of the budget. You'll also be receiving copies of the Condrey's manpower study along with organizational charts, both the current and the proposed for the airport. With that, thank you so much, and we will plan on seeing everyone on Monday.
Thank you, Mayor. And for the people in the audience, legal and finance starts at 12:30, and this was just a presentation from the mayor before we got our